And thank you very much for making the time today to have a moment to have a look and discuss some session. Oh, let me start again. I'm a bit tongue-tied. Okay, I'm just going to take a deep breath because Anton and his technical stuff has thrown me out of whack. So I'll have a go at it. So I'll start again. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to get the elephant out of the room, and that is that I haven't had my hair done for 4 months, and it's looking pretty ordinary. So I feel that needs to be put out there straight away. So I am a trainer and a wellbeing support officer here at OzHelp. And as I said, thank you very much, because I'd like to spend some time today talking to you about what wellbeing is, some mental health and wellbeing services that could be useful for your workplace. And probably the most exciting thing today is the opportunity for my invited guest, Nicole, to have a chat to you about mental health services and providers in the workplace. So I'm really looking forward to that. Anton's going to help me today, just moving through some slides. So he's just kicking ahead way too quick. If you'd like to just go back, Anton. Thank you. I'd like to also do a small acknowledgement to country. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land of where we're meeting today. Also like to pay my respect to the elders past, present and emerging. Thank you, Anton. So, understanding wellbeing. To everyone that's joined me today on the screen, there's been lots and lots of words being thrown out of late. Mental health, wellbeing, resilience, stress. There's a whole gamut of words that are out there. But what I'd like to do today is I'd actually like to take the opportunity to break down the word wellbeing, because it's one that's being used immensely out there. Governments are putting money towards developing programs around wellbeing for people out in the community in all sectors. So I'd like to actually spend a moment to just get you to reflect and think around what wellbeing actually is. So here at OzHelp, wellbeing is not something that you do or do not have. It's actually a state of being, and it's actually related to both your physical health and your mental health. So at OzHelp, we have philosophies and programs that engage both in your physical health and mental health. So it does require that we give it attention. We need to keep upkeeping our well-being, and it's generally divided into 6 areas that we need to give it attention. So for us, I'd like you to think about your physical wellness, your emotional wellness, social awareness, vocational, psychological, and spiritual wellness, right? So maintaining our well-being is a balancing act, and all these areas, these 6 areas are all interlinked. So, for example, if you're doing poorly in one area, there's a strong probability that another area will also be suffering. So, for example, if we find ourselves without people to talk to, you might feel a little bit bored, you might feel lonely, and being in that space, that may even negatively impact on our thoughts of how you're traveling at a certain time. Okay, so when you look at those 6 areas, there are the combinations of the positive and negative things that can happen in your life through events, activities, issues and demands are numerous, right? And having an awareness about all those different combinations for some people can be quite overwhelming. So what we'd like to do is spend a little bit of time today just breaking that down and having a look at what it's like. So Anton, can you just keep this on this frame for as long as, and then I might ask you to move them on, if you could do that, please. Right, so at OzHelp, we have a philosophy around wellbeing, and it's written in this particular quote at the top of this little diagram. Wellbeing is the balance point between an individual's resources and skills and the demands and the challenges that they may face. So we bring a bit of a practical element to the word wellbeing here at OzHelp. And it's your ability to restore homeostasis. So we're looking at our ability to restore our internal stability, a very holistic approach to well-being. Okay, so as you can see, if we were to look at our resources and skills, the things that we use to solve our issues, our problems, things that make our day go, we have those 6 areas on one side, and then on the other side of our wellbeing seesaw that we're using as an example, we have the challenges and demands, and they too fall in those 6 areas of dividing up our well-being. So when we're feeling well, there's a strong probability that we would have a very good balance between our resources and strengths and our demands and challenges. And when the seesaws are approximately balanced, then we're in a state of maintenance, we're in a state of coping, accomplishing, being able to meet our demands and challenges. And also there will also be room for achievable growth as a person. So when we sort of have our seesaw in a relatively balanced position, we're able to deliver on those things. But as you know, things can get out of balance very easily, right? And that usually happens when we lose control over the demands and the resources that we have. They can be either added to our seesaw or they can be taken away from us, right? So for example, I didn't really want to go into this space because it's probably been put out there enough as it is, but if we were to think about our situation with lockdown, right, an added demand is that there's a requirement for us to stay at home. And a resource like seeing our workmates regularly is being taken away. So being out of balance can result in poor well-being. So if you think of the people that like to be around their work colleagues and connect, people that might be now at home and struggling with all the additional things that are going on there, that can cause a lot of stress. There's a lot of stress on our bodies and our minds. So, Anton, I'd like to just move on. What I'd like to spend a little bit of time this morning is I'd like us to revisit our resources and our skills. So on our presentation here, we have a list, and we're going to go through the 6 areas of the things that we may forget, we may become overwhelmed, we may not see as we're dealing with a variety of challenges and demands. And I'd like us to have a look at some of these things and think about, am I doing any of these things? Have some of these things dropped off? So just to name a few from each of the areas. So as we said, there's a strong link between physical health and mental health. So we're asking people to think about physical activity that they might be doing, like James Miller. He's out there walking the dog out in the sun, which is fantastic. And probably a simple activity like that can be a thing that can really help enhance someone's well-being. Just as an example, people's sleeping, eating healthily, looking at your drinking habits, reducing smoking, drug taking, and just the ability to find some rest time in all the chaos can go a long way to helping people restore their well-being. So the emotional side of things. So, do we have some things in place to handle stress, anxiety, and have we got the ability to have some self-compassion and kindness for yourself and others involved in your life, including your employees and family members as such? So psychologically, I think there's a few things there that some people may be doing. Mindfulness is a practice that's been promoted of late to assist people out there. But I'm also looking at things around your ability to set some goals and make some adjustments as you work through them. And also the one at the bottom, problem solving. I am sure I'd like to share with you that when COVID hit and there was a lot of chaos, there were a lot of people that were stressing out and were really struggling with the day-to-day things that were going on with their life. And those people came forward and sort of like reached out to us and wanted some assistance and some support and referrals. And we worked extremely hard with them. But I also found that there were a lot of people who had amazing resilience and had the ability to solve their own problems and find new directions. And actually, for some of them, within all the chaos, they actually grew as a person. And we were really taken back by that at OzHelp. We thought, wow, that is fantastic that they've been able to make changes, work on things that were important to them, and continue to move forward. Anton, if you'd like to just move forward. Thank you. Just some more resources and skills for you to think about. In the social space, knowing who and how to ask for help is really, really important. And I'm sure that in a little while that Nicole will add some discussion to that for you guys in that space. And it's always one of the big things that we do try to promote at OzHelp. And the majority, if not all, mental health and wellbeing service providers will say to people, you need to reach out. You need to ask for help. If you're struggling and you're not traveling well, there's no judgment. It's that there are many services and people willing to step up and help you navigate the issues that are impacting your wellbeing. Spiritually, so having resources and skills in that area. Alone time is pretty good to book in some alone time, to check in on yourself and make sure that all those things are aligned, that keeps your wellbeing in place. And the last one there in the vocational space are just some things that probably as business owners, you would probably be quite aware of these things as they help shape your day-to-day workplace environment. But it's also important to come back and revisit these things and use them as a skill and a resource to help you move forward and keeping that well-being in a balanced position. Yeah, so some other things I'd like you just to think about is that if your well-being is tipped in a certain direction, say, for example, that you might have too many demands and not enough resources, there's a strong probability that the sort of feelings you'll have will be around anxiety, being overwhelmed, potentially angry, right? And maybe even a sense of hopelessness. So, it's really important that your ability to have awareness, understand where your scales are and what is happening in each of those areas for you. On the other side of things, if you have too fewer demands and challenges and you have way too many resources, you may feel bored, you may feel dissatisfied, you may even feel underutilized. So it's really important that we try and maintain an even keel with regards to our well-being. Yeah. Anton, if you'd like to move forward. Okay, so as we mentioned earlier, having a bit of a chat around some tips and strategies to maybe deal with mismatched well-being. So if you have noticed an imbalance in your well-being, try to work out how to bring it back to your balance. So here's just a small example on screen about some things that might be happening for a certain person at this point in time. So the resources that they've got as an individual is they can solve problems and they have a sense of purpose. They've got a really good skill set around asking for help and they've got some physical activities in place. But on the other side, whilst all those things are there, they're facing these following issues. And that is they may be having a lack of sleep, they've got some financial stress, and they're not feeling right. They might have lost a loss of faith. They've got some anger issues. They might feel isolated. Some of those things could potentially be happening to, small business owners out there. There might be one or two of those things that might be causing some challenges and demands out there, and they're trying to work their way through it. and hopefully some of those skills that they have on the resources and skills side could be of benefit to them moving forward. So with regards to balancing your well-being, I'd just like to mention a few things. There's no right or wrong answers. Your well-being is unique to you. Okay? It's okay to have some of these things fall on both sides of the scales. So if you notice that your well-being has become imbalanced, I'd like you to think of a couple of questions that you may consider asking yourself, and that is, what do I need to do and have more of? So when you look at those 6 areas, you've identified some things. What are some things I need to do and have more of? And also ask yourself, what do I need to do and have less of? Right? And the idea is to just practically make a little visual note, maybe even write that down somewhere, of how you can deal with those things that are putting your well-being to an imbalance. So some of the ideas you may have heard of in the past, something for you to think of, is to develop a routine. Look at the schedule of your week. Take some breaks for yourself. Ask yourself, what can I control at the moment? What are some of the things I can control? Do the little things that matter, just the little points that might be of benefit for you. Definitely a big one is stay socially connected with your friends, your boss, your work colleagues. Continue to check in with yourself. Ask yourself, what do I need? Make that time for yourself. I think that's a really important point, and especially when you also have all those other responsibilities that you have to deal with as a business owner. Make time for yourself. Also, try and reduce the challenges and demands. Ask for help to get that done. So if you don't have some resources or skills, reach out and see if there's someone out there that can actually help you deal with some of the issues that you might be having to deal with. I think this is one of my little favorite things I'd like you to consider. Thinking of things to do is a really good idea, but doing it is much more important. So we all come up with things that, hey, you know what, I think I can get to that, but for some reason we don't actually follow through and get things done. It could be the littlest thing that might come to mind for you. Okay, I know this is just a little webinar, and I'd just like to leave you with a little exercise. It's not too much, but what I would like you to do is you have a visual of what a wellbeing seesaw looks like. So sometime at the completion of this session, and you have some time, I'd like you to draw your own seesaw. I'd like you to pick a few things out that are going on in your world and just draw something and put it on this similar sort of diagram, and just write down what your challenges and demands are, and then maybe write down what you have as your resources and skills to help you do it. And to just add a little bit more to it, I'd like you to give it some weight. And what I mean by that is I'd like you to give it a score from 1 to 10. And then add up your scores on either side and see what that looks like for you as a little activity. So, for example, the lack of sleep could be a score of, oh, that's really affecting me really badly. That's like a 7 at the moment with my challenges and demands. But my isolation, I'm doing okay with that. So I might just give that just a couple of points. Then on the other side, my physical activity has been awesome. That's a 9. So give those things that you've written down a score out of 10, and then just add them up and then see where that balancing wellness and well-being scale seesaw looks like for you. Thanks, Anton. If you'd like to just move on. So that's a little summary around well-being, and maybe some different ways to look at it with some practical strategies to help you navigate your difficult times at the moment. What I'd like to do now is I just would like to talk about resources for workplaces. So Anton, once again, has just jumped the gun, but that's good. So what we have here today, what I've done is I've just put a list of ACT service providers that are out there in the community to provide support for anyone that may be struggling with certain areas of their life that may be impacting on you individually, but also may be impacting on your workplace. So I've only listed a few there for you. Obviously, these are all available later on, I believe, Anton, for them to have a look at. So we have a few services there that I might just bring up and let you know what they provide and give you a little bit of an insight for you. So, for example, let's go with Care ACT. It's a service for providing support designed to nurture and connect and empower carers. So that, you know, out there are people that are looking after other people. They provide a variety of services from counselling to workshops and activities for carers to help them out. Obviously, the CAT team is a crisis support team that's provided for people who need immediate help with a mental health crisis. So that's provided by ACT government, which is an awesome service. Then we have sort of like Directions Health Services, and they provide sort of like a support around drug and alcohol support. So if people are struggling in that area, they need to reach out and find someone that can help them in that space. They're a wonderful service. And also, finally, as we're aware that sometimes there are some serious outcomes to people who may be struggling with their well-being and their mental health. And a really wonderful service, Anton, sorry, if you could just go back, please, just could go back, I'd like to just give a shout out to Standby, who do an amazing job for people who are dealing with bereavement and the impact of people who may have taken their life. So they're a wonderful service. So Anton, if you'd like to just move on again, thank you. So there's some local service providers, and then we have some national service providers, which I think are really important. And so the first one right at the top, Head to Health, is a fantastic service, which is a directory of all mental health services in Australia. So that provides services across Australia, a fantastic resource to have. And underneath, we have other national service providers. We probably all have heard of Lifeline, Beyond Blue. Relationships Australia is a wonderful service, and Men's Line, and the Suicide Callback Service. So if you are looking for someone when something may not be quite going right for you in your workplace, yourself personally, family members, those people important in your life, I would strongly recommend taking a visit to Head to Health, and I think that would be a very useful thing to have in your place. I'd like to just wrap up by saying that when it comes to mental health and wellbeing service providers, there is a whole range of services, and that range coincides with the mental health and wellbeing spectrum. So it's, for some people, all they want is a little bit of support. Some people may just want to go to a service that provides a training program for their colleagues in the workplace. Some people, as I said, may have an employee or a family member that's in crisis, and you move straight to those crisis support lines like Lifeline and so forth. So it's now a matter of really, as a business owner, is to actually think about where people are sitting and which services would be of benefit to you, and how you would like to upskill or have those resources available for yourself and also the people in your workplace. So as I said, it's a continuum, and it's an opportunity for you guys to maybe spend a little bit of time to think about what would work for your business. I'd like to just finish with this. If we were talking to a big company, they would have an organizational chart. And on that chart would be the CEO, the guy that takes care of the finances, there'll be the guy, the HR department, the payroll department, et cetera, et cetera. But for some of our small to medium businesses, that organizational chart would be the owner of the company and their lovely wife doing the books. And there might be 3 people sitting underneath them working for that organization, and they run a successful and fantastic business. What I'd like you to think about is, on that little small organizational chart, would you be able to find a little box or a circle, and on the side, put my mental health and wellbeing service provider? It could be a phone number, it could be a GP, it could be OzHelp, it could be Lifeline, whatever it may be for your organisation that you think would be of benefit to your group of people. I'd really like you to maybe consider something like that and spend a little bit of time checking out what's important, and it can come in a whole variety of ways, as I've mentioned. So on that note, that sort of like brings my little presentation to an end. I hope it's given you an opportunity to think of some other things in the space of your well-being, and how it would not take too much for you to reach out to our service providers out there who are out there and are ready to assist people in difficult times. Thanks, Anton. Okay.
Now we have the opportunity to open up to some questions for Frank, and he loves hard questions. So if you've got some tough ones for him, definitely give it to him. Before we go on to Nicole. And one thing I will say, Frank, one of your providers there that you mentioned was Carers ACT. And I've actually utilised that service myself. And when I was going through a loss of my first wife through illness. And it was just so happened that they were across from where my office was at the time. And I went over to ask them, and I found their support and services were really, really good. And not just from a carer's perspective, but just from a person who just needed someone to talk to, who was outside of your normal environment, not a friend, not a relative, just someone with an ear to listen and would give some, I suppose, independent feedback. How do you find the importance of that, Frank?
Anton, that's a really nice example. I do fondly remember those years way back when we first met, and you were going through that life event for you, and it was a really huge life event. And to hear that you reached out to an organisation like Care ACT and had that just as support is just, all I can say is that is just a fine example of how simple it can be to put some things in place that can get you through a tough time. Because sometimes when we become overwhelmed again, it's just the blinkers come on it, and we just cannot take our thought processes and our skill sets away from just going on with the day-to-day things that you have to deal with. And sometimes taking that step and going to talk to someone, as you did, outside of your group of people can open so many doors for you with regards to finding some strategies to move forward. So can't say it enough. And I would say, people would be more than welcome to connect with people at OzHelp, but I would recommend people to reach out to whichever service is out there that is the most appropriate one for you, and make that connection.
Okay, so before we go on to Nicole, has anyone got any questions for Frank? Come off mute and ask away.
Hi, it's Jenny. I have a business in Canberra with 24 employees. At least 18 have disclosed to me that they have mental health or brain health issues. I have put in place a mental health plan. So as soon as they disclose, we go through that, and that gives them options of ways to deal with things, organisations to call, etc. My biggest problem that I'm finding is that I've had to employ 7 apprentices, and out of that 7, I probably have 2 that I would say would work the normal amount of hours within a year, within your normal working weeks.
Yes,
Five of them, I would say, probably are off between 3 to 5 months a year with mental health issues.
Wow.
So the problem that I'm having is that I'm having to employ more and more people to fill positions for people that are unwell and not able to work.
Yeah.
Today, and I guess just to start with, Nicole, how are you going at the moment? I mean, we're all kind of business owners, or majority business owners on this call, so I think sometimes some of the really important things are, how are you going?
Well, to be perfectly honest, when Frank contacted me the other day about this, I said I probably sound like a bit of a fake because, you know, here we're talking about well-being, but goodness me, what a roller coaster it's been lately.
Yep.
And, you know, not just with COVID, there has been lots of other things, outside influences, things that, you know, completely out of your control, some that are okay, you know, that I could have done better. And so, yeah, admittedly this year I was feeling a lot more excited about the year. There was a bit of, you know, there was a bit of hope, I suppose. I think we all felt with, you know, Christmas had come and gone and it was like, rightio, bring it on 2021. My year didn't start out particularly good, and it was actually, and why I say that was because we had a cyber attack, the very first, within a week or something of being back at work. So you know, you have all these grand plans and it all just gets turned upside down. So I suppose that was the beginning of my year, and it's been exciting. I'll put it that way.
Exciting is a word for it.
Trying to be positive.
I think there's a few of us who want to see the fine print on 2022 before we sign up
that's
as well.
right.
So, you know, I think, but it has been a big year. And so with everything, you know, COVID, of course, being the biggest thing that we're hearing, I guess, but there's also all of these other challenges going in the background. And like you said, even starting off with a cyber attack, which is such a hard event for any business to go through. We're in October now somehow, and you've made it through from January to October. How would you describe how you're feeling looking into the remaining quarter of the year?
Look, I do feel brighter, and if I can, Frank hadn't done a bit of a big sell on OzHelp, but I definitely can, because without an organisation like OzHelp behind us, I'd have a very different view. It's been, as I said, I mean, even just using it, the cyber attack as an example, apart from trying to address the actual situation itself, you know, my son was involved, work was involved, you know, there was a lot to untangle, a lot of different things to put in play. And when the dust all settled, I felt angry and very isolated. So the things that Frank was raising before, they were ticking, I was literally ticking off thinking, yep. And I suppose just, you know, trying to do a bit of reflection, why am I feeling this way? How do I move forward? All those sort of things. And there is a lot of focus, I think would be fair to say, on our employees. And this is why it's great to have these forums. But there's so much focus on employees. We're so caught up, you know, about their well-being and making sure they're empowered, etc. So picking up both Jenny and Lass's point about, you know, how to let off steam and how, you know, I feel like I'm doing everything, but you know, if you can't support people yourself, if you're not in a good place, you're useless to not only yourself, your family, your workplace, you know, colleagues, etc. So someone like OzHelp have definitely given me more strategies over the years, but definitely for this year. And so here I am in October, feeling very bright, to be perfectly honest. We've had so many knocks this year, but I do feel really hopeful, and getting that balance right. And it's very much about balance, and it definitely hasn't been like that this year at all. It's been all over the shop.
And sometimes that hope is just, is worth so much, but it can easily fade. And like you pointed out, as business owners, the first people we tend to think about are our staff or our clients or the community, because let's be honest, businesses are the ones who are out there supporting the community, really well. And I know sort of Mark on the line and Jenny, I know from their businesses, they're big community support sort of people as well. And, the last people we think about are ourselves. And I think it's a really interesting factor because, often then we put on this mask that everything's okay, and we forget that we're whole humans at the end of the day. And, when we suddenly recognize that we are whole humans, we can start to look at what we need as well. But that can be really uncomfortable. And as you mentioned, you had to go through stages where, you were angry at what was happening, because again, you're a whole human and you feel those emotions. But I imagine that was also uncomfortable at the same time. And then there's a certain amount of deflecting in terms of not necessarily wanting to deal with yourself. And you said OzHelp has helped. And I know you've been working with OzHelp for quite a long time now as well. Tell me, and I think for the sort of benefit for others, what do you do at those times when you kind of might know that you need to reach out, but you're still resisting that urge to reach out?
Well, obviously the cyber attack was such a huge event, for this year. But I suppose it definitely highlighted for me. I mean, I knew that it was, it was a really big thing. It was traumatic. I said, angry, isolated, all these mixture of emotions. It had affected our family. It had affected our business, and I felt there was a lot of pressure on me. And although I took off, it was sort of a week off just to sort of bring everything back into train. I think it ended up being 2 weeks that I was off. I thought I was in a good space, and I came back to work. And the first day, and even though everyone sort of, was probably pussyfooting around me, to be quite honest, it was all okay. They were worried about me. But I had a phone call with someone that I was still sorting out passwords, etc. And I snapped at this lady, which was so, it was outside of who I am. And of course, just the whole range of emotions, feeling guilty and, and apologetic to her, bursting into tears. And I thought, oh, this is really professional. This is all going swimmingly well. But I literally got off that phone call and went, and I did actually step aside and think, righty, I just, get it together. But I literally rang up OzHelp, and I thought, this is just not me. I need some help right here and now, because I don't like the person who I am right now. And I had to be the role model. And again, it's that pressure, you do want to let off steam. You just want to yell and scream at times, but you've got a role model, and, there is that facade that, sometimes are sort of putting up, which is exhausting. And so I actually, when I spoke to OzHelp, the lady, ended up ringing back, and because I said, I just need to speak to someone right now, sort of thing. Yeah. And of course, no one's just, you can't sort of just expect to be the only person they're dealing with. So I had a phone call back, and the person was putting me in for an appointment the following week, and I just thought, by next week there'll be other bits and pieces. And it was only a few days later, mind you. But it was just the fact that I recognised straight away that this was really, really important. And I said as such, and they literally wiggled around. I was the next morning speaking with someone, which sort of set off a few appointments with OzHelp, which actually brought me back on track and made me understand and process what had been going on. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest and most important thing of all. It's a safe space. It's something that I suppose I see working with a provider like OzHelp is, giving me a safe space to just mouth off if I want to, quite frankly. It's not judgmental. It just lets me vent. It might not give me all the solutions, but at least it lets me vent. And I suppose that's the biggest thing I find for me as a business owner. But also, it gives me confidence about how to tackle a problem, or, gives me validation that what I'm feeling is okay. And give me strategies, what to do moving forward.
Yeah.
So something like, for me, that came out of all the, with the cyber attack stuff, was that I thought, you know what, here we are, I've been in business for 28 years, and I've never really focused. Even though I'm very mindful of it, there's all this wellness around us, wellnessness, as I call it. I still wasn't focusing on me. And so this year, admittedly, I've put in, just a really, really simple thing of every 6 weeks, I have a calendar, a reminder that it's a wellbeing check. And I literally see it in my calendar and go, right, how am I feeling right now? Do I need a bit of maintenance? Do I need just to speak to someone, or I'm feeling good? And I honestly believe just that tiny little thing itself is just such a practical, easy, simple thing that just gives me a little bit of a kick up the bum every now and then to say, hey, you are important. You should value yourself too, and give me resilience. And, if things are out of balance, what do I need to do with that? What can I change? So I suppose it just reiterates what Frank was saying.
That personal check-in is so important. And I think, again, it's something that definitely falls off the to-do list, I'm sure, of many people sort of on this call. It's very easy to kind of go, I'm fine. And but having done that this year and having really looked at how you can sort of proactively also look at your well-being, how do you think that's changed, I guess, not just you, but the business?
Look, we've always tried to encourage, openness and all that sort of stuff. And something, I suppose, it's reinforced, within our culture that you are important. Look after yourself. We've always been very family-based. It's a husband-wife team. Our eldest son works with us now. We've, as I said, had the business for quite some time now. And we speak about family, and still to this day it's a family business, and we still have that. We've still got a very strong focus, obviously, on our people, but we also are making sure that people do feel valued and value themselves to moving forward. I suppose one of the things that I learnt some years ago to do, which I think has been a really, really valuable thing, again, just a simple strategy, but I suppose I had this light bulb moment that, as you said, we are all people, but it's okay to show a bit of vulnerability. And there's I too have used services of carers, ACT. Funnily enough, I actually used to work with them many, many moons ago. So I suppose I've always sort of been within this realm. But one of the things I suppose works for our team, and what I encourage with others, is that I literally will come in one day and say, I apologise in advance, but I'm feeling really fragile today. Yeah. And it's been, I suppose it's just empowering me to be able to go, you know what, I have bad days too, and stuff is happening in my life, and yes, I have got a world outside of, our business. And yeah, I too have, a lot of things or stresses, and, I've got, we've got 2 boys and, running a business, and, but I suppose it's, having a business that's male dominated as well, has, I suppose, taught me a lot. And I suppose that's why I'm, it's very, very important about that culture to be able to, as a business owner, be able to say, you know what, today I'm not going very well, and it's not a, personal thing, and, and I can guarantee you people don't go, oh my God, did you see what,
Yeah.
I'd much rather them know up front, than me, blow my stack, which I'd hope to think I don't do, touch wood, but you don't want to be, pressured that much that you are backed into that corner that you just want to explode at everyone.
So true. I know we've had this conversation on a few of the webinars now, and I know Mark and I were speaking about this in the first webinar, but and love hearing that story, because what we're hearing so much is that in particular this year, there's been a lot of business owners, and executives talking to their teams about the fact that they mightn't be having a good day, or that they might need, to go and have some time out and things like that, or opening up even about their, mental health struggles or their mental health illness. And by and large, that vulnerability, we all know is quite hard, but produces so many rewards in terms of team culture as well. And, not only allowing staff or teams to then go, actually, it might be okay for me to disclose something as well, but for people to go, actually, how can I support you, and feel good at that too? Because we forget that, again, being all humans, people kind of like to support each other as well. And when we as the business owner try to put on this face that we're okay and we don't need any support, sometimes it creates a divide. And so there has been great examples this year of how just that vulnerability has deepened, I guess, the connections and teamwork and all of those kind of things. Is there any questions from anyone in the audience, or does anyone even want to come out and share any of their stories on what we've been talking about, or have any questions sort of for Nicole?
Okay. No questions for Nicole or Sheena. Okay. Oh, hang on. There's a hand up.
Oh, we got one.
Go for it.
Not a question, just a comment. So look, I share many of what Nicole said. And in my case, look, sometimes, Nicole mentioned her 2 boys. I've got a boy and a girl. And perhaps they have seen the stresses I've been through. So thankfully, neither of them, they want to continue to be in the family business. It's not that they don't like what I do, but I don't think they feel it's worth it. And quite often, perhaps I justify what I do thinking I'm doing it for them to have the things that I could never afford as a child. But I don't know, at times I wonder, am I doing the right thing? I had to put family second, not family first. So I share many of them. I'm not sure whether I'm going to walk away today with having all the answers, but Frank's, that seesaw thing, your sort of demands versus the supply. I'm an engineer by profession, at least should help me to rectify some of it. So look, so it's not a question to Nicole. I can just say, look, I relate to a lot of what you said.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges are, as business owners or professionals, that we often identify with how our business or organization is going is also about how we are within ourselves. So if the business is not going well, then we see that as a personal impact on who we are, and that a failure is within us. When, say, something like COVID is totally outside of our control, but it's still linked to who we are within our business. And I think that's part of the challenges, as well as understanding that the business is just work. Yes, it's financial commitments and all that sort of stuff, but life is about the people that we share our experiences with in our families. And that's what makes us up of who our identity is, not the job or the title within the job. James, you have your hand up, mate. James McPherson, that is.
Yeah, thanks, Anton, and thanks, Frank. Thanks, Nicole, for sharing. And I didn't really want to. I wasn't going to get into details with my story necessarily, but just to say that I've been self-employed for 10 years. I think everyone